Hey, I am here with Nate Burleson and Todd Downing. And real quick, Todd and myself, we did a church startup. It's 2 years old now, and we're here in the East Bay of San Francisco. Todd's been a huge part of Eastown and was the offensive coordinator here with the Oakland Raiders, has a lot of different connections, and that's what led us to Nate Burleson here. Just Todd's admiration for you, Nate, and you as a father, as a leader, as a man, is so cool. So we're here on Father's Day. I just want to start with a few questions, just a few thoughts. I'm a Detroit Lions fan.
Okay, all right.
I watched you play. Were you ever offended when people called you Megatron?
You know, they didn't really call me Megatron. They called me Recepticon. Think about Calvin. He was
Calvin. Sorry.
Good.
Sorry. Yeah.
Listen, here's the thing. I get what you're saying, but it's like Calvin, when God made Calvin, he blessed him with a special stick. When he made me, he was just like, I'm going to give you a couple of the qualities. And listen, if there was ever confusion, I was Calvin Johnson, I would still be playing like Larry Fitzgerald. I'd be 20 years in.
The only confusion is on Clint's part. Clint, we talked about this. Do your homework, man.
Yeah.
Do your homework.
Man, why? I mean, it's not that I'm angry I'm a Lions fan, but I was expecting a little bit more. You know, I was expecting maybe a championship. You know, what gives?
Hey, we got to talk to Jesus, you know. That's really what we got to do here.
Hey, Todd, get us started, man.
Yeah. So first of all, Nate, you and I go back way back. You and I connected in 2003 when we were fortunate enough to get you in the draft there in Minnesota. And what's been really cool to me is how our friendships endured all the different phases and seasons of our life. And you're in a season in your life right now where you got to be the busiest man in show business, man. You're everywhere. Like, it's such a joy for me that my son, every time you pop on the TV, he's like, "Hey, Mr. Nate, you're on everything."
Yeah.
So when you're so busy professionally, how in the world do you find time to be invested as a father, be invested as a husband?
Before I answer that, outside of the jokes, I do appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you so much. And TD, yeah, we go back, man. When I first got to New York, which was 4 years ago now, I was so caught up in trying to conquer everything. You know, I look at myself as a lion. I'm a Leo. So it's like, I want to conquer the jungle. I always say that. And I just want to work. And it's kind of the same philosophy I had as a football player. I wanted to prove to everybody that I was good on TV and that I can work multiple jobs. But really what I found myself doing was I was running out of energy because I was so caught up in working all these shows, and then I was working on Sundays. So to kind of bring it full circle, like having multiple jobs, we're talking 3 jobs, and then really not finding time or giving myself an excuse to not sit down and invest in my spirit and my relationship with my Lord and Jesus Christ. I just thought to myself, I'm going to have to either quit my jobs. And I remember walking in one day and talking to my wife and saying, "I'm done. You tell me you want to go back to the West Coast right now, I'll do it." And she's like, "Why?" I was like, "I'm stressed out. I'm losing hair in my beard. I'm losing hair in my head. I thought football was fun. This is stressful." And it really stressed me out because I didn't need to work. Like, I was blessed enough to where I took care of my money. I went to a dermatologist, and it was one of the most revealing appointments I've ever had because she looked at me. She said, "Do you have alopecia in your family?" I said, "No, I don't." She's like, "Well, what's new in your life?" I said, "Everything." I picked up my family and we moved to the East Coast, and I have a new job where I'm waking up at 4 a.m. I feel so much pressure to be good on TV. I just feel like right now I am trying to stay afloat. At that point, she said, "Well, that's it. You're stressed." And I was like, "No, I don't think you understand. My old job, I played football for a living." She wasn't really a big football fan, as my wife walks away. She said, "No, from what I hear, you love football, but right now you're stressed and your energy is in all of the wrong places." It was just one of those mind-blowing moments. And I drove home just in silence, didn't listen to music like I typically do, didn't pick up the phone and call anybody. I just thought to myself, where's my energy at? Because there's been times in my life, whether it was in the league, within my relationship, in college, I remember one time so specifically where my energy was invested in my spirit, where I was giving time to myself, giving time to develop my relationship with God. And I was in the Word, and statistically and even spiritually, I remember in college that year I'm talking about, it was the most productive year of my life. So much so, I got through that year without even thinking I was in that year. It's kind of like a basketball player saying the hoop is as big as the ocean, or a football player saying the football feels like a pillow. Like, and that was the year I put up 138 catches. And people at the end always wanted to give me praise. And I just thought to myself, you need to tell them that it isn't you. And that I would always cut them off. Yeah, I worked hard, but it was God. It was all God. Like, I decided to not listen to music that had curse words. My wife, or girlfriend at the time, we decided to not have sex. We wanted to try to give ourselves a curfew. So at 10:30, we would leave each other's house. I was doing a Bible study on the weekend and a youth study where I was talking to high schoolers and middle schoolers. And I believe that the Lord in that moment he was rewarding me for my diligence and my search for purity, because I kept saying, this year I want to be pure. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to indulge in anything college kids indulge in. I want to be as pure as I can and see what the results are. And the reason I bring all this up is because in that moment of me driving in my car, I thought I need to get back to that. I need to tap into an energy source that I know is unlimited. And the two things were my Lord and my family. So once I did that, it's funny. I added more jobs. My hair started growing back. I started sleeping better, and I was less stressed. To answer your question the very long-winded way, that's how I manage these jobs. Being able to tap into the right things that give me the energy that I need. We're all busy, and we all have a ton of stuff, family and money and jobs and friends and people that pull at you in every direction. Not to mention, if you have a beating heart, just the world today just pulls at your heartstrings. But if you can plug into something that's bigger than you, your battery will never feel depleted. And that's where I'm at now. I can work as many jobs as I want to because I know what source to plug into.
Hmm. I think you just took every question that we had. I don't think I have any more. I mean, that was absolutely, I actually do. I want to go off of some of that. What was the catalyst for your faith journey?
My mother and father, I was raised in a Christian home. And as a young kid, you show up, you go to church, you wear the nice outfit, you say hello to the old ladies, and you listen to the Baptist music, and you're grooving, you're having a good time. And that was fine for me. And then I got to college, and it was a little bit more secular and a little bit more relaxed. They invited the college kids, wear your own clothes, be honest with what's going on in your life. And they encouraged us. I've never been in a church where the pastor was like, I want to put pressure on you to hold your friends accountable so they can hold you accountable. And then I'm also going to put pressure on you. I'm going to basically make you a pastor to people that look up to you. Because in Reno, we didn't have a professional team. So high schoolers and middle schoolers, they thought we were the coolest thing in the world. I love that pressure because giving back to people that see something special in me is the most rewarding thing. When they can look at you and think you're the greatest thing, and you can point to something else and explain why it's real. It was life-changing because it created this person that was always going to give back. I'm always going to be a giver before I am a guy that's selfish. And that ultimately is because God is. And as you get older, there's moments where the relationship just isn't as strong. And then when you look in the mirror at your reflection, you realize it's your own doing. And I was taught a long time ago, if there's struggles within your marriage, or there's issues going on in your family or at your job, somewhere down the line you could point to a place in time where you could have changed that. You could have changed the course. I've had moments where I've embraced that, and then I've had moments where I've avoided that. I heard this a long time ago by Jamal Crawford, who played in the NBA for a long, long time. He's a close friend of mine. We grew up together, and he said, the NFL doesn't change you. It just exaggerates who you already are. And I took that advice before I actually landed in Minnesota. Then I landed in Minnesota, and Beekert, who was our linebacker, the OG, he's like, "What's up, kid?" And he's like, "I like you, man. Got talent." He's like, "You're a good kid. You're a good kid." And it was kind of like one of them OG moments, and I'm just soaking it up. And he said two things to me I'll never forget. He said, and they were based in scripture, so I recognized them. He said, "Hey, listen, man, no matter how good of a person you are, who you hang around with could be your demise. So it's, your association can lead you astray. So the good intentions, they'll be corrupted by, your company." And it hit me because you're in the NFL and you have guys that are great men. You have guys that do things the right way. But then you have individuals that are living recklessly, and you got money, and the lifestyle is there. And it's like, let's party and do all the things we see on TV. We're rock stars. Where do you want to go? I'll keep referring back to things that I've learned because I kind of anchor to these things. Somebody said to me, there's two type of wolves inside of you, the flesh and the spirit. The one you feed the most is going to win. So when he said that, I'm like, wow, that's deep. And then he said, make sure you get the most out of the league. If this towel I have, and it was just a face towel, is the NFL, and your athleticism is the water, this is your athleticism. And he's squeezing it. Wow. Drop the drop. And he just keeps squeezing it. And I'm like, I get it. He's like, stop. Keep squeezing it. And I'm talking about, this thing looks bone dry. Squeeze it one last drop. Boom, hits the floor and evaporates because we're in the steam room. And he said, that's your athleticism. So I want you to get whatever you can out of the league, like they get out. You remember that last drop? You get every red cent. You get every piece of branding. You get every piece of knowledge. So when you leave here, you're equipped to go out into the world, because there's a lot of guys that aren't. That was my rookie year. And I was just like, ooh, this is heavy. And we're all familiar with this, whether it's something you read in scripture or something somebody says to you. It doesn't always sink in right then. You understand it, you can digest it, but it doesn't sink in. There's moments in my life where I would think about that conversation and I'm like, that's what he meant. That's what he meant. And then you have to hit the reset and you have to plug back in and know what your foundation is. So I'm thankful for my mother and father, because even when we didn't necessarily understand why we are in church, we understood that there was something bigger than us, where our blessings came from and our understanding came from.
I want to do a couple of tough questions, like real talk.
Yeah.
I want to jump off that springboard. I remember your clothing brand. I don't know if that's still around, the Lion's Blood. And I read an article one time about how that started, about where you were, what you were thinking. It was a tough time. And I think we live in a day and age where there are so many people dealing with depression, anxiety, fear. The Nate Burleson now, speaking to that Nate then, can you talk us through that? What encouragement would you give people? What was it that said, you know what, this is not the route and this is not the road I'm going to go? And I'm sure, man, you could talk all day long. It's like, hey, here's where I messed up, or here's where we all can. Yeah. But talk to us a little bit about, because I know people are going to be watching that or watching this that are at that point right now.
No doubt about it. There's been moments in my life where, you feel like you're grasping at air, or you're trying to doggy paddle in the deep end. And you realize that you're not in the deep end, you're just panicking. You just gotta put your feet down and pick your chin up, and you're above the water. Before my career, I was just this fun-loving kid, and I just thought, all right, I'm gonna play as long as the NFL will keep me. And then I got out of the infancy stages from Minnesota to Seattle. And I remember tearing my ACL, which at that point was the toughest injury, because my skill set was the agility. It was being able to jump and run and cut. And I was sitting in Alabama getting my surgery by one of the best doctors in the world. And I was so far removed from what I knew as life. We connect ourselves to all these things that I used to call them illusions. And then once they disappear, we're shocked. So as I'm in Alabama, post-surgery, I'm sitting in this hotel room alone. My wife had came up to visit me, but the kids are back in school, so she had to go back. And every night I'm just like trying to figure out where my importance is. And I remember every Sunday I would listen to the games, and I so desperately wanted them to say my name. And in that moment, I realized, like, the league's going to forget about you. I mean, I just tore my ACL, and I'm listening 3 hours of the broadcast, radio broadcast, because I can't see it. I'm in Alabama. They don't carry Seahawks games. And I'm sitting back and I'm just like, man, they really could care less about me. Now, it wasn't the case. Maybe I was being over dramatic, but more than anything, I realized this game was here before me and it will go on after me. And I remember at night, after I was cleared from my pain pills, but still had some left, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just have a little bit of vodka and I'm gonna go to sleep. A few days later, I go down to the same bar at the bottom of this hotel. Hey, let me get a double. You give me a double? It's like, oh yeah, cool. How's the knee doing, Nate? It's all right, man. It's all right. Sit down there. Next day, I'm like, hey, can you just fill the cup up, no ice? I'm gonna take it upstairs. The next week, I walk up to him, I hand him 100. I'm like, yo, could you just get a bottle for me and just send it up to my room? And I remember drinking just by myself, thinking, get on the phone with the wife, hey, everything's cool, but really so deep in my own despair, and then waking up fully dressed. And I'm a guy that likes to get comfortable, pajamas, hoop shorts, whatever it is. And I remember waking up and like looking down, seeing my shoes first with my shoes. I never sleep with my shoes on. And then I looked at my torso and like, it was like I fell asleep in like maybe a comfortable position, but to me, it looked like I was laying in a casket. And in that moment, I was like, I'm either going to be in one or I'm going to find my way out of this bottle. Now, at that point, I was just a casual drinker, but I knew that I was headed down a path where I was searching for something. I was searching for, validation, and I was trying to find it in my own misery. And I was like, I gotta walk away from this, whether I play again or not, whether I have all these ideas of how much of a failure I am because I wasted money and I made bad decisions, and maybe this is, you thought you were a good guy, but maybe there's something in your past you did, and this is why this is happening. You play all these games. It's all these deep, dark voices that talk to you while you're sitting in this like pit. And if you listen to them, you're just going to dig deeper. But if you listen to something deeper, you're going to climb out of it. And that's what I did. I was like, nah, man, I'm bigger than this. I'm bigger than this injury. I'm bigger than this bottle. I know that God has a bigger plan for me. So let me tap into that. And then that's when I went through my first like major rehab, came back, played again, and then Detroit called. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna live in what I say I am. I say I'm a lion, like you're a lion. Like, you have that spirit in you. Like you're blessed with something deeper, man. Like go get it. And I started like hashtagging it and saying it and believing in it. Before I knew it, people started repeating it on social media. So I was like, I'm gonna just ride with it. And I made it a clothing line. But for me, that clothing line is deeper than just a shirt on my back. When I say lion blood, it's the blood that's in you. It's the blood that we were blessed with. When we say we're covered in blood, it's the simple fact that we have something in us that can get us through anything. And that's what I think people need to realize. Like, don't get me wrong, depression is real and there's dark moments we all deal with, but you can conquer anything. You just got to tap into the right source. And I always felt like God is that.
Mm-hmm. Man, dude, incredible. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. So as a father, how are you navigating what's happening in our society right now of all the ugliness, the injustice, the racial issues that have been exposed of late, but have been around for hundreds of years?
Yeah.
How are you as a man, as a father, and maybe you can hit that on different levels? Like help us out with that.
It's tough because, you see these things happening, right? A black man unarmed in the street, a black woman, she gets shot while she's laying in bed. And it seems like we're watching a TV show, but it's the same rerun. And it always ends in a way that makes me feel terrible. So it's hard not to accept the reality of what it is. So instead of trying to deny it or act like it isn't happening, because it's easy for a guy to live in the suburbs, disconnected from some of the chaos that goes on in the inner cities and some of these places around the country, to just say, I'm not necessarily dealing with that. I'll send out a tweet, but I'm not going to like really address it. And I'm going to make sure my kids they're in this bubble. I don't do that. I make sure my kids understand what's going on in society without generalizing a group of people. And that's very important to me. Being raised in Seattle, very diverse community, college in Reno, from Minnesota to Seattle, Detroit, Cleveland. I live in Jersey, work in New York. I've traveled all over the world. I look at humans as humans. Do I see color? Yes, I have to. I'm an African-American man, but I can't sit here and get so angry that I walk downstairs and I'm like, family, huddle up. You see that white guy? That white guy killed that black dude, and that's what they do to us. I can't do that. It's not in my spirit. And if I do that, all I'm doing is just sowing little seeds in my kids. Now they go out in the world and there's hate in them. And all it is just leaving all these trails of hate, because in their school something could happen and they could be in the middle of it. And then in high school, and then whenever there is a confrontation, I could be putting them in a bad position because what I taught them. I can say every cop is bad. I actually make sure that I show them what reality is with the injustice that's going on in society. And then I show them what the reality is of the people that are good. So I have best friends that work in the police force, and they come over to my house. And it isn't for me to parade them around my family. They just come over and they're just here. They're out of uniform and we're hugging and how you doing and how's your family? And they call each other cousins. So they get to see what I describe as police officers or people in uniform that look like real life superheroes. I just need you to understand there's other people in those uniforms, a very, very small amount, that they act like villains. And that's with every culture. There's people that look like you that aren't good people. But on the majority, there's great people. So with everything that's going on, I teach humanity with a very real dose of reality. And it works. It works because we don't have prejudice in our house. I don't tolerate stereotypes. You know, when you're raising kids, sometimes they'll come home and say something that they heard. And I'm like, no. That's not funny. I know they probably laughed at it at school, but that's not funny. You're saying that casually, but you can say that amongst the wrong people, and that can make somebody really upset. So we're not going to do that, and we're not going to indulge. As a matter of fact, next time that happens, I need you to check that person. You don't have to be a bully. Just check them in real time. Because if they're slick enough to say something about another race around you, imagine what they could be saying about you when you're not around.
Yeah.
I was like, so these are the conversations we're having. And you know what? I got to be honest. I'm proud of that, because, you know, there's moments of anger. Again, I have to see this again. Somebody dies again that looks like me in the street, that's unarmed, in a completely avoidable situation. But being able to take that anger and that pain, like, dissect it. What are the pieces that I want to keep and talk to my kids about? And then what are the pieces that I know are unhealthy for my family? And I just throw those away. So that's how I'm navigating through these tough times.
That's amazing. Can I ask you a practical question?
Yeah.
When you say, I have this question from a lot of dads, like when you say, hey, I don't want you to beat somebody up for saying that, but I want you to step into that situation. It's easy for us as dads or as parents.
Yeah.
Todd and I have talked about this. It's like, how do you coach them through that? What are some ways that you can help kids step into that without, causing, to escalate the situation versus like, just let people know where you stand?
Yeah. I've tried to show it through action, whether it's something that they have repeated or something we see on TV. Because oftentimes, TV is as casual about making fun of people's race, religion, and culture as anybody. And in that moment, I'll say, that's not cool. And it sounds kind of like after school special, but it really works. If my son comes home and he says, somebody said that Asian people are good at math, and everybody laughed, and I'll say, that's not cool. I mean, that might be a good stereotype to have if you're good at math, but it's still a stereotype. So all I need you to say in that moment is, you don't have to be the guy to come to the rescue, but you can say, that's not cool. Stereotypes aren't cool. And if you kind of explain why, then people understand. So you also have to teach them why they're not cool. They can't just say, like, you're not supposed to say that. Like if I can talk to my son and say, all right, Nehemiah, here are some stereotypes that are attributed to your race and your culture. Here are some stereotypes that are attributed to Latinos and Asian and Muslim and all these different stereotypes. You can have this conversation. So when they hear them, they say, yo, that's not cool because I heard that people say stuff like that and you shouldn't either. And it's so subtle, but when that person, whoever is doing it, the perpetrator of acting like that, if they keep going now, all of a sudden, they're the one that has the spotlight on them versus, it being on you. Your heart's going to be racing when you say something to somebody. But the moment you do and you get it off your chest, you already won the moment. That person, now the pressure's on that person to keep acting like a jerk, and everybody's going to notice because it's called out, or they're going to have to fall back and reevaluate how they see things.
That's great. Todd, I cut you off, man. Sorry.
No, it's just, the most recent of these social injustices, Nate, happened blocks from where you and I have hung out before.
Yep.
It's something that I know hits really close to home for both of us. And you said something earlier in this conversation that has been on my heart in the last several weeks and really since realizing that I can have these deep conversations with my son, is that we can't hide from things.
Right.
And one of the things that we can't hide from, at least I don't want to hide from, is I want to acknowledge the fact that you have experiences, you have interactions, you have conversations with Nate and Nehemiah that I don't have to have with Jackson.
Right.
That I haven't experienced. And I would be so naive and so reckless to pretend that I understand that.
Right.
But I do want to be a part of the solution. And what I love about the things that you've been saying, and they were covered in Clint's question, but you gave us a lot of guidance for what a Caucasian father and husband can do practically, right? Is to step into those moments, to break down those stereotypes and to stop letting comedic value override human decency.
No doubt.
And I really appreciate your heart for that, man.
Yeah, I put a couple of posts out there and people responded in all kind of ways. Majority of them were like, yeah, I agree with you. This is wrong. This stuff has to stop. But then there's folks that come out and they say, well, they're just rationalizing. And people are sliding in my direct messages and saying, I'm unfollowing you. It's ridiculous. I can't believe you would make a correlation to Kaepernick's silent protest and I'm like, well, I don't know how you don't see the parallel, but if you want to make an argument that you didn't like the way he did it on the stage, he did it because football is supposed to be football, that's a different conversation. But don't rationalize something as simple as life. Like, when I say these things are avoidable, this isn't just me, pounding on the table for every Black life loss. This is for every color of human that has lost a life in situations that are avoidable. And that's all it is. It's just like what our God has for us, just that understanding and empathy of the moment and that grace. Like, I just feel like we lack all of these qualities because, quite frankly, we're calloused by it happening so often, and maybe even calloused by the things that we digest and the things that we see and the things that we talk about. And I had to go through a moment where what I'm digesting, what I'm watching, what I'm listening to, is that changing my heart? And if it is, I either have to check that, fix that, or I'm going to become part of the problem and not the solution. So it's just understanding, like you said, Todd, it's like understanding that two people from two different places with two different backgrounds are going to have two different perspectives, but I still appreciate you as my brother or my sister, which is why I'm going to sit here and listen to you, and not listen to you in the sense that I can't wait to talk. Listen to you and literally try to take in every word. And that's where change happens. And if we can get to that point, if people just listen more often and try to let those feelings sink in, I think we'll be in a better place.
Nate, thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you for your heart. I'm going to wrap this up. And Todd, anything?
Hey, speaking of rapping, I have something I got to settle here. So Nate, I've known for a long time, okay, your poeticism, your gift with words. But Clint, I'm going to expose you a little bit here. You know, you've said many times that you think you could handle yourself in a rap battle or some sort of freestyle. So here we go.
Hold on.
Let's wrap it up.
I want to clear this up. When I was talking about at Christmas, I started like a
no. You said I lived in Detroit for 5 years and I drove past 8 Mile a lot.
I had a business around 8 Mile where we would wrap Christmas gifts.
I can
see how you would understand.
We'll let Nate show you how it's done, and then you can wrap us up. Okay.
All right. So I'll put together a little something. All right. Here we go. As a father, all I want to do is give, and provide. So I look at Father's Day like our Heavenly Father, 24/7, 365. I appreciate y'all listening, and thank you for your energy. For me, religion equals relationship. That's mentally and spiritually. Todd and I go back. He calls me Nerp. I call him TD. We went from practicing TDs to scoring TDs on TV. And kids want to be me. They dream about the NFL every night. I'm humble, but I don't want them to be like me. I'd rather them be like Christ. It's not the money we have, the stuff we buy, or the clothes we wear. Your life's worth is measured by the fruit that we bear. So do good because it's right, not for the world to see. And if we do that, just imagine how great the world would be. Finding out who we are is a lifelong search, which is why we're thankful for the love you share at Eastown Church.
Yeah, Clint, go ahead and take that over, Clint. we can see you.
It's breaking. I can't.
I think we're frozen.
Oh gosh, dude, that was. I'm going to bow out. On this battle.
That's best for everybody.
But that was absolutely incredible. I need to learn how to rap. I don't think I'll ever sound like that though. That was pretty good.
No, I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, brother.
So I'll put together a little something. All right, here we go. As a father, all I want to do is give, and provide. So I look at Father's Day like our Heavenly Father, 24/7, 365. I appreciate y'all listening, and thank you for your energy. For me, religion equals relationship. That's mentally and spiritually. Todd and I go back. He calls me Nerp. I call him TD. We went from practicing TDs to scoring TDs on TV. Kids want to be me. They dream about the NFL. I'm humble, but I don't want them to be like me. I'd rather them be like Christ. It's not the money we have or the clothes we wear. Your life's worth is measured by the fruit that we bear. So do good because it's right, not for the world to see. And if we do that, just imagine how great the world would be. Finding out who we are is a lifelong search, which is why we're thankful for the love you share at Eastown Church.
Yeah, Clint, go ahead and take that over, Clint.